content presented is for entertainment purposes only. Some content may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. So I know this is a really sensitive subject. I'm going to try to do my best to keep my composure. But there's a lot of interesting things that are going on in the world. And I guess I just feel really grateful that, well, number one, my wife encouraged me to be more involved with understanding what's going on in the world and be more informed. But also, it's also kind of making me upset and angry and frustrated. Because in my mind, things just don't make sense, but it's like still happening. And things that you think should be reasonable and people should reasonably understand, they don't. So I don't know. I don't really know what to say about it. I don't know what to say to help other people make sense of it. Obviously I'm not a doctor. I'm not somebody who is the be all end all of anything. I'm just a guy sitting behind a microphone, making little happy memories, talking about these kinds of subjects. Even though they're pretty intense. So this particular episode, I wanted to talk a bit about abortion. Because according to these articles that I'm reading, it's the leading cause of death in the world, which is really interesting. Apparently, there's 59 million total deaths worldwide in 2020. Over 42 million abortions worldwide occurred in 2020. Oh, okay, I think I mistyped something here. Over 42 million abortions worldwide occurred in 2020, far surpassing the totals of people who perish as a result of the world's leading causes of death. On average or annually, 40 million worldwide. And it looks like it's about 71% of all deaths worldwide are caused through abortions. Now, if these numbers are correct, and it is a Christian news article that I picked for my first one, and the second one was lifenews.com. But if that's correct, wow, those numbers are staggering. I find it incredible that people are still in favor of the systematic destruction of humanity. I don't know. Again, I just don't know how to go about this, because it is a sensitive subject, and I know the sides of it are very polarizing. But let's talk about this really quick, and then I'll kind of move through my outline here. So Wikipedia's definition of life is the property or quality that distinguishes living organisms from dead organisms and inanimate matter, manifested in functions such as metabolism, growth, reproduction, and response to stimuli or adaptation to the environment originating within the organism. That, for me, is like such a very interesting and I think pretty cut and clear of what life is, as far as like describing something is having life or being alive. I personally disagree with the idea that providing a service such as abortion is good for humanity. I don't believe it is. And it is for sure not good for Americans. And part of that is because of my belief that the cells that are growing inside of you, is of human make. And if left to the natural order of things, once that egg is fertilized, it will become a human being. And so taking away from that and terminating it, for me, is from what I understand, it's taking a life. Even in cases where somebody is killed in a car accident and it turns out that the woman was pregnant, like they could still get like double homicide after that, I think when I think of the universe, like I strongly believe that there is other life out there, whether it's intelligent or not, as far as we understand life to be. I take the phrase that's kind of repeated in the movie Contact with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey, which they say is that if there isn't life out there, it's an awful waste of space. And space and the universe and the cosmos are just so vast and so intriguing and so interesting, especially when you get down to the smallest particles, protons, electrons, and so forth. And then when you go farther in that and find that there's space in between those particles, it's just, I don't know. Like when I start listening and like reading like scientific stuff, it kind of starts to make me think and feel like how insignificant like my life is when in comparison to how vast the universe is, which we can't even comprehend. And when we get to the when we talk about like multi dimensions and layers and in universes upon universes and black holes and stuff like that, it makes me feel very lucky to have the life that I have. Now, with that being said, I do believe there's some kind of God out there, some kind of positive force that we just don't understand. Like I've talked about in other episodes, I'm a agnostic theist, which just basically means that I believe in God. I just don't think that there's any conceivable or scientific way to prove or disprove the existence thereof. But, if one of our robots or whatever goes to a planet, out there and they find microscopic organisms, they're going to say there's life on another planet. And whether people believe or not, sperm and eggs inside of human beings have a purpose, and the cells within them are alive. And once that egg is fertilized, those cells will continue to divide and to grow, just like we're talking about with life, and that'll eventually become a human being. Now, abortions are, in my opinion, terminating life. And as I understand it, no matter what reason you put behind it. However, I always try to meet my disagreements with a halfway point where applicable. Now, for me, I feel like this procedure could potentially be agreeable in severe or dire circumstances. Like, for instance, if keeping the unborn child alive where the woman having the child will die, and they don't have the ability to continue to keep that newborn alive because it's, being born so premature that it won't be able to survive on its own. Like, I think, I always kind of think about, okay, so what if this is in my position? Like, let's say my wife and I are having a child. And before the fetus, the unborn child, we say fetus because, that's how they describe it, which I kind of don't like it, but because it kind of takes away the humanity out of all of it, calling, unborn child a fetus or a zygote or clump of cells or whatever, it really takes the humanity out of it, and that bothers me. But anyway, I digress. But if my wife was having a child, and due to complications with the pregnancy, like she's going to die if we don't terminate the pregnancy, I mean, I feel like that option should be there in those dire circumstances, because I would think that my wife could have another child, but I can't get, like, my wife's life is precious as well. And it just would make sense that I would save my wife's life over that pregnancy. And, you know, maybe people would disagree with me on that, but my wife's, to me, I feel like she's like the only person in this world that means so much to me. To have her die because of that and not be able to remedy that in some way would be really hard to go through. But in my opinion, I believe that that should be an option. Even though I understand, in my opinion, it's terminating life. It's, you know, basically murdering a child. But if it's one life or the other, I'm going to choose my wife, I think. And, you know, again, I don't have all the answers, but I think that's how I would do that situation in that moment. And I could be wrong. Maybe that's the wrong thing to say. I don't know. But I love my wife. And I think it should be an appropriate procedure in circumstances of rape or incest. I think those would be appropriate times. But again, for me, it doesn't really matter how you slice it. That's probably a poor choice of words. How you see the circumstance. I do believe it's terminating life. Like it's murder, in my opinion. But I understand that there are circumstances, you know, just like protecting yourself. You know, if you protect yourself when somebody is coming at you and wants to terminate your life, you know, with a weapon or whatever, and you meet it with an appropriate response to protect yourself, and you end up ending their life in the process. Self-defense, right? I also believe that the two parties involved with creating the life should discuss their options with their doctor. Okay, so I believe that it's important to think about all your options. I don't think it's just a matter of pro-choice or pro-abortion, like, or pro-choice or pro-life. I just don't think that really balances it out. And I kind of feel like those are kind of like the far one side or the other, in my opinion. Because I believe that there's decisions that need to be made before, you know, you even have sex. And this is having sex between two consenting adults that are of proper age. And if they do create a life because they made the choice to have sex, intercourse, they should talk about what they're going to do. Now, back in the I don't want to say good old days, but back in the past, what would happen is that if you know, a guy and a girl got together, you know, and they get pregnant, the proper response in the community usually is to get married, you know, to make sure that kid has a chance to grow up with parents. And I kind of like that idea. You know, it doesn't really matter, you know, if it's, you know, what the parents' like relationship looks like, if it's a, you know, heterosexual or gay or lesbian or trans, it doesn't really matter. I really think that most people in this world are good people and good-hearted, like down at their core. And I think as long as they focus on raising a child to be a good human being, that they're going to eventually become a decent human being in their life. Now, that's not always the case. You know, you're always going to get bad eggs or bad apples in the basket. But I think for the most part, I'm an optimist in that. But I believe the two individuals that are in that current situation of, you know, they're you know, the woman's pregnant, she's going to have a baby. They should talk about their options with each other and decide what they're going to do. And I don't think it's any other person's business, to be honest. because at the end of the day, it's the woman's choice what they're going to do. I mean, that's what we live in today. Her body, her choice. Like, I get it. But I do believe it's important that both parties should have a conversation. This is quite a subject. So, like, what does life mean to you? I mean, is it when it comes to sentience or, intelligence? Does it come down to carbons and atoms and cells? Like, what is life to you? Because to me, like the Wikipedia definition, I think says it pretty well for me. But when you talk about like chicken eggs or ostrich eggs or Gila monster eggs, like you say that. You don't just say this is an egg, like you describe it, just like, you have human eggs and you have human sperm, which have a purpose. Nature intended it, or God intended it, or whatever you believe. But it has a purpose, whether you believe in God or not. And our bodies have been formed to do certain things. And so don't we need to make sure that our future posterity is protected? Like, what about the rights of the unborn child? Like, do they not get a chance at life? Do they not get a chance to grow up and be a kid and laugh and to play and to eat and poop and pee and grow, and go to school and go to high school and graduate, go to college, start a business, fall in love, have a family? I mean, what about the rights of the unborn child? Do they not have any rights? It seems like where we're at right now in the laws around the Roe versus Wade and how the different judges have judged different instances with abortion and so on and so forth, doesn't seem like the unborn child has any rights, which is interesting. Because unborn or not, I believe life should have a chance. Because you never know. They could become doctors who cure autism. I mean, they could be the next president of the United States and really bring our country together. I mean, you just don't know. You just don't know. I don't like how our humanity is being systematically taken out of human terms, such as fetus or zygote or whatever. I feel like we need to bring that back when we talk about terms when it comes to unborn children and the various stages while in utero. Because I don't like the idea of calling an unborn child a parasite. Because, like, let's look up parasite. Like, we all know what a parasite is. Parasite definition meaning. An animal or plant that lives in or on another animal or plant and gets food or protection from it. A person or thing that takes something from someone or something else and does not do anything to earn it or deserve it. That's interesting. Organism living in or on another organism in order to obtain nutrients, grow or multiply, often in a state that directly or indirectly harms the host. That's interesting. So, do unborn children harm the mother? Do unborn children harm the mother? How mothers' emotions affect unborn children. Pregnancy complications. Well, yeah, that's a possibility. Okay. Not a lot on that. Just randomly Googling it. I mean, other than, the symptoms of, growing a child inside of you, which I don't understand fully because obviously I'm a dude. But I just don't like the idea of calling unborn children like parasites. There should be a better term for that. I don't think it should be used. I don't like it. But anyways, if you would love to start a conversation, would love to hear your thoughts and feelings about abortion, so leave us a comment for the topic of the day. Also, this episode is brought to you by viewers like you, so thank you. Hopefully we have earned your support today. You can best help us by hitting that red subscribe button, clicking that damn bell to be notified of our content releases so you don't miss a thing. Something that's linked to this whole abortion topic is, of course, Planned Parenthood, which is really interesting because the majority of the Planned Parenthood's facilities are in minority neighborhoods, which is fascinating to me. Now, you all know I love everybody. I do. And the experiences I've had living out east in the predominantly Black and Latino areas have been very eye-opening and very heartwarming for me. Because all the nonsense that goes on in mainstream media, liberal media, on our social media, like everything points to all white people are racist. And all Black people hate white people because they're racist. And I don't like that, because having my experiences out east and actually living and talking to people, like literally 6 months out of my life, I was out east in predominantly Black and Latino neighborhoods. And honestly, I love Black people. Very intelligent, very funny, always smiling and happy, and want to change their communities and want things to be different. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional there. So this is a quote from this lifenews.com article I was reading today. Planned Parenthood has a long history of discrimination, beginning with its founder, Margaret Sanger. Sanger helped to lead the eugenics movement, frequently promoting discrimination through her writings and speaking, including in a speech to the KKK in 1926. In her book, Pivot of Civilization, Sanger described certain groups of human beings as human weeds, reckless breeders and spawning human beings who should never have been born. Wow. She also wrote about getting rid of people with diseases and disabilities through sterilization and segregation, describing these morons as a dead weight of human waste. And in 1939, letter to a friend, she wrote, "We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population." Today, Sanger's ugly beliefs live on through Planned Parenthood's billion-dollar abortion practice. Wow, $1 billion. No freaking way. That's freaking nuts. Because, so one of the things I'm really passionate about is music. And the thing about music is we wouldn't have certain people if we didn't have certain music. Like we wouldn't have Elvis without Black artists. We wouldn't have Johnny Cash if we didn't have Black artists. We wouldn't have jazz. We wouldn't have rock and roll. And I love rock and roll. I also love, the rock throughout the 90s. But it's been inspired by a lot of these Black artists. Heck, we wouldn't have had the White Stripes. Very interesting. 86% of Planned Parenthood's facilities are in minority neighborhoods. So predominantly out east in minority neighborhoods. Planned Parenthood's largest abortion facilities also appear to target Black and Latino neighborhoods, according to 2017 research by Life Issues Institute. 88% of Planned Parenthood's 25 mega abortion facilities are located within walking distance of Black and or Latino neighborhoods. See, this is the kind of racist facilities and organizations we should be talking about. This should be all over the news. Like, there should be laws put in place to start closing down these facilities. Candace Owen talks about it quite often. I mean, sure, she's polarizing and kind of, far right in my opinion, but she champions her race and her culture, and she wants to protect people of her race and her culture. And I think it's sad that people paint her as a bigot and a racist, and she's not. But I digress. I find it concerning that the radical left and liberal media agree that this is okay in America. I also find it appalling that anyone who disagrees or refutes abortions they're just labeled a racist automatically. I don't agree with you, so you are a racist. That's not how you argue points. Oh, looks like I just got a package. Sorry about that. I don't like it when individuals disagree with people. They're automatically labeled. You're a bigot. You're a racist. You're part of the KKK. It's ridiculous. Like, I'm surprised we live in a world that opinions aren't refuted with better opinions and like speech. Like, people aren't like coming together and talking about it and say, okay, I disagree with you. This is why. And I really do think that our social media is a shit show that's even dividing people even worse because of these algorithms, that if you stay a certain amount of time, like on an image or on a video, they're going to start sending you more videos. Like a perfect example, sometimes I'm up late and I can't fall asleep, and so I just start looking through videos just to kind of see what's out there. And one of these nights I was up late, I was watching the different videos of people that are civilians who are auditing the police and making sure that they're not infringing on our rights as Americans. And I think that's actually a really good idea, as long as they're not provoking. Like, there's some videos I'm just like, okay, they're just trying to provoke people and this is really stupid, and they always end up really bad. But other times, when it seems like it's appropriate, like everybody learns something, which I find is really interesting. But when I spent time on those videos and watched them almost all the way through, guess what I got next? Another video auditing the police and trying to figure stuff out. And it's just interesting how these algorithms work. And although that seems like it makes sense, it seems like it's very helpful, but these things also are a detriment to society, because, like, let's say a person with anorexia. I'm not even saying that right. How do I say that? Anorexia. So individuals with anorexia are watching videos about anorexia. What are they going to get? More videos on anorexia. I don't think I'm even saying it right. And it continues to perpetuate, people's anxieties and mental health. I think it's abusive for people with mental health, because they'll continue to watch those things and it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And so on one hand, these kinds of things help. On the other hand, these things don't help. But I don't like it that people will just throw things out there and say, oh, well, you're a sexist. And it's like, well, why don't you debate my opinion with better speech here? And why are Americans still supporting Planned Parenthood, which we know is racist and is systematically destroying minority groups and individuals? I'm surprised that these kinds of facilities aren't being demonized in like other people are and other organizations are. And I believe that their practices should be brought to light. And I think we should be talking about these kinds of things. And these kinds of crimes against humanity should be discussed at length. Like, I'm surprised they're not talked about more on social media. I just don't get it, and I just don't understand. I understand and I get that's important for people to have the right to choose. But I also believe that there should be some rights to that unborn child. Because if left to the natural course, what's growing inside of the woman will become a human being. And so this topic really bugs me. And maybe I'm not saying it right. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. I'm sure I'll get a comment or something talking about how I don't understand it because I'm a man. Well, men can have opinions too. And I think it's sexist to say, well, because you're not a woman, you can't have an opinion. Oh, that bugs me. It's like, really? Because I'm a man, I can't have an opinion? I can't think through the process and say, well, this kind of bugs me. I don't like that. I don't like that we live in a world where people will say that about other people. You know, I always talk about how I really want people, when they listen to our podcast, to really think about things. And yeah, maybe I'm not the best orator. That's a big word. I'm not the best orator. I'm not the best debate. Like I couldn't debate, like, honestly. Like, I have my beliefs, I have my feelings on things, and I can just express them and be like, I disagree with that because I believe, that that's a person inside of you. And I think that's murder. But at the same time, I understand that there are the crazy circumstances that happen in people's lives. And I can meet people halfway and say, okay, in those extreme circumstances, I can see where this could be applicable. I can see where this procedure of abortion can be applied. Even though I believe it is a life. I believe that once the sperm fertilizes the egg, it is a life. It's grown inside of you. And if you go even further than that, the egg and the sperm are alive, in my opinion. But I get it. I'm a man. And I don't understand a woman's body. I can only understand the things that I've read about and I've learned about growing up, about boys and girls and how that they're different. And it's okay to be different. It feels very strange that we live in a day and age where instead of celebrating our differences, instead of celebrating the different things that we do and function in nature, are demonized and said that, no, we need to be completely 100% equal. So men need to be able to have have ovaries and a uterus so that they can have a baby. Well, yeah, I understand that there's an article out there where it talks about a trans man having a baby. I think I can't remember if they were particularly a woman who transitioned to a male. I don't remember, but they hailed it as, oh, a man has a baby. Well, nature disagrees with that, and science disagrees with that, because women have babies. And I know people are going to get upset at that. Like, I get it. But I think it's interesting that we're all squabbling over rights of your race or rights of your skin color. And we're debating, and like everybody's getting upset on your rights of your sex and rights of, your sexuality. And we're not talking about the rights of unborn children. We're not talking about the rights of parentless children. Like, this baffles me, because I like the idea of foster care. I like those are all options as well. I mean, obviously your first option is to not have intercourse, or if you are going to have, sex with, your consenting partner who you're both are of age, obviously. You could choose not to have sex, or you can have protected sex. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving advice. These are just my thoughts and feelings on the subject. Like, there's other options out there. And it bugs me when people say, oh, well, that's not a realistic option. Well, it is a realistic option. It is an option. Period. The adoption process is lengthy and expensive. Foster care, I think, is failing for children these days and age. And that's because I spent a year and a month with a teenage foster child in my home. And unfortunately, it didn't work. Like, we're having issues, we ask for help, we ask for programs, we ask for counseling, and it's like, oh, well, he doesn't want to do it, so we're not going to let him. What? If these children are having issues, they need to be in counseling. If these kids are having issues, they need to be in a household that can watch them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I think we're failing these children because they're also not receiving consequences for their actions. What's that song from Offspring, where it says that if what is the line from Offspring? Let me look at it real quick. Offspring, line, something about if you're underage, lyrics. I can't remember, but there's a line in it where it talks about, well, if you if you do things while, before you become of age, you're not going to do any time. And I think that's ridiculous. Like, I think kids, if they break the law, just like anybody else, there should be a consequence for it. Obviously, again, the punishment should fit the crime, but if we're not taking care of those kids and making sure that they understand that if they break the law, there's going to be a consequence for it, and it needs to follow them until they get through it. It's not like one of those things where, okay, well, we'll put a fine on you and you'll need to work it off through community service or if you get a job or whatever. But when they turn 18, then it falls off. No, that needs to follow them until they get it taken care of. But anyways, I digress. Bottom line, there shouldn't be this many abortions. There shouldn't be tens of millions of people systematically destroyed because someone made a bad decision one night, because they drank too much, or they had drugs, or there's a guy that likes a girl and they decide to fool around and they have a baby. There's a lot of steps and there's a lot of decision making that leads up to a lot of that stuff. And I get hormones and stuff like that. They're raging and they're pressuring you. And it sucks because nature is saying you should be doing these things, but the law says you can't be doing these things because you have to be of a certain age. And that's important because laws are important because society and communities are important. And when the laws say you have to be 18, then you shouldn't be doing that until you're 18. This kind of scares me. I'll be honest, because it's the leading reason of deaths, like throughout the whole world. And it scares me because it's like there's no, like we always talk about like all these laws and all these, rights for certain individuals, but why are there not rights for unborn children? I feel like there should be. And again, I could be wrong. And I'm sure people are going to tell me in the comment section down below. So if you have enjoyed our content today, please crush that like button and share this video with family and friends. Let's be better human beings today than we were yesterday. And from our family to yours, good night.